What boys suffering from haemophilia came to be at Lord Mayor Treloar's was because it was a research project.
Yes.
They've never had the full truth.
Mr. Clark, what do you say to criticisms that haemophiliacs are exposed to the risk of AIDS?
Perhaps the greatest untold injustice in the history of this country.
But I have become convinced that there has been a cleaning out of government.
These pharmaceutical companies supplied products which killed a generation.
The government obviously waiting for the outcome of that inquiry. This fight goes on.
To 1970, AMRE 5012_004. We see here a letter from Dr. Biggs in her capacity as director of the Oxford Haemophilia Centre supporting the continuation of funding for research at Treloar's. So the letter's dated the 14th of December 1970, and she says, in relation to application from the Lord Mayor Treloar Trust, Alton, Hants, I feel this grant should be continued for a number of reasons. One, the collection of 49 haemophilic patients at the Alton School makes this a unique opportunity to study the disease. So again, that way of looking at the pupils there, which we've seen in really so many documents, are here articulated by Dr. Biggs. The patients are particularly important since crippling is still occurring and the question of prevention is under study. The work which Dr. Rainsford has already done has defined the essential organisation required to treat boys gathered into one school. This was in itself a major research objective which has been achieved. As a result of this work and the efforts of local specialists in the regional and the Wessex Regional Hospital Board, a basic service for the treatment of the boys should soon be set up, which will enable the research fellow to concentrate on purely research projects. In addition to the basic organisational research, Dr. Rainsford has already initiated 7 other research projects, all of which are important and will cease if support for research is not forthcoming. Good cooperation has already been established between the work being carried out at Alton and the work of other research centres, particularly the one at Oxford, and we feel that it is most desirable for this cooperative work to continue. Although not specifically stated in this application, it's intended that Dr. Rainsford should continue as research fellow. Dr. Rainsford has already shown himself to be an able organiser, to have many original ideas of his own, and to have immense energy and ability in obtaining cooperation from other scientists. And there's a little more information about Dr. Rainsford's work at this time from AMRE 5011_066. So this is a letter from Dr. Rainsford himself, July 1970, and you'll see it's addressed, as was Dr. Biggs' letter, to Mr. Guthrie, and Mr. Guthrie is the director of the National Fund for Research into Crippling Diseases. Dr. Rainsford says this: I think I ought to bring you up to date with regards to the research programme now being carried out here. In the original suggested outline of research, 6 specific questions were posed, about which, with the exception of question 3, conclusions have been reached by the time I was appointed. With regard to question 3, epidemiological evidence here would appear to show that no beneficial advantage would be obtained from regular prophylactic injections, largely because of the short half-life of Factor VIII in the body. The present research programme has been planned so that there should be no overlapping with that being carried out at Oxford. At present, 4 separate research projects are being undertaken, and then he gives details of those 4 projects. Project 1, epidemiological evidence collected here suggests that there's some seasonal variation in the tendency to bleed in both haemophilia and Christmas disease. And so, again, if we just skip down, we can see he says, it's thought that more evidence on these observations may be of fundamental importance, and the plasma cortisol levels of the boys suffering from these diseases is being routinely examined throughout the year. And we're told that that's an investigation being carried out in cooperation with a Dr. Shaw and Mrs. Richardson, consultant pathologist and principal biochemist, respectively, at the Royal Hampshire County Hospital. So that's project 1. Project 2 it involves, and I'm picking this up from the 3rd line of that paragraph, sera being examined for the presence of rheumatoid arthritis antibody, and that's said to be a joint investigation, both clinical and pathological, being conducted by Mr. Stanley Evans and myself. It's described as a fairly long-term project, and the relationship between rheumatoid arthritis antibody and the possible development of inhibitors for Factor VIII is being studied. If we go over the page, Project 3 refers to a recent report about immunoglobulins in haemophilia, and Dr. Rainsford says this was discussed with Professor Nicholas Martin and Dr. Rosemary Biggs, and the serum of all our boys with haemophilia and Christmas disease is being quantitatively examined for the immunoglobulins likely to be involved. These investigations may indicate those boys likely to develop inhibitors for Factor VIII, and it's explained that that's a project being undertaken in cooperation with Professor Martin and Dr. Sharrod at the St George's Medical School. And then Project 4, investigations carried out in conjunction with the Virus Reference Laboratory, Public Health Laboratory Service with Dr. Yvonne Cossart, has shown that the incidence of antibody to Australia antigen is extremely high in our cases of Christmas disease and haemophilia. Dr. Cossart has arranged to carry out regular examination of our cases for this antibody and possibly to screen all the materials being administered for Australia antigen. It is probable that much may be learned of the cause of serum hepatitis, and its prevention could well be the outcome of these investigations. Furthermore, there's a serious shortage of sera for the detection of Australia antigen in this country, and the supply of sera from these boys will therefore greatly augment the present National Bank of Australia antibody sera, which will permit more widespread research into the relationship between the presence of Australia antigen and hepatitis. Dr. Biggs has approved this programme and all the projects are well underway. So that's an indication of some of the research work being undertaken by Dr. Rainsford in 1970.
Indeed, the Biggs letter from 1970, her support for Dr. Rainsford, the way that she is describing for those purposes how haemophilia, boys suffering from haemophilia came to be at Lord Mayor Treloar's was because it was a research project.
Yes. She refers to the organisational work undertaken by Dr. Rainsford.
And he's saying, well, Rainsford brought together a group of boys specifically to research them.
That it appears to be what she's saying, so yes.
Yes.
And then